Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on Business Morning. Even though we're coming 4 minutes behind schedule, you know the reason why we're live at the Eco Hotel and Suites venue of the 7th Lagos Economic Summit that has been going on now for the past 48 hours. It's going to climax today, and most of what they've been talking about has revolved around power. Now, we know that power is very essential to drive the economy, particularly key sectors were focused here: agriculture, housing, and transportation. Now, we're going to be talking to a couple of the participants here at the summit to get their thoughts on how much we can get foreign investors to be partnering into this laudable project that the Lagos State government has decided to kickstart. I'm going to be talking to the Director UK Trade and Investment, Mike Purves, and we're going to be looking at we're going to get some of his thoughts on how best trade and investment can actually begin to key into this. Now, for most of what has been happening just before Business Morning started, we were given a summary of some of the sessions that happened on Tuesday and yesterday, and from both sessions, from all sessions covered, it was very key to note that most of them focus on the fact that there has to be political will to ensure the implementation of all these policies and resolutions that have been coming up. I might have to quickly add here that there was a lot of participation at all of these sessions. No session was left entirely empty because they're very key. Investors are very key, very determined and very ready to key into the opportunities that have been presented at this summit, even though most of the times they talked about the constraints and the problems. But then, like one of the panelists at one of the sessions actually talked about, that's the issue on funding projects, creating bankable projects and sustaining companies. It focused on the fact that you have to take risk. If you're not a risk taker, you can't be in this sector, because this sector has the potential to grow, and most of them have agreed. But we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll be talking to the Director of UK Trade and Investment, Mike Purves. Please join us again. Morning is live at the 7th Lagos Economic Summit, which is happening here at the Eco Hotel and Suites. And I have now here with me on the program the Director of UK Trade and Investment, Mike Purves. Mr. Purves, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure. Good morning, Harriet.
Well, let's talk about all the discussions that have been happening in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that you've tried to make sure that you're at most of the sessions. What really is the UK Trade and Investment's interest in what's going on here?
Well, I think conferences of this nature are very good at focusing minds as to what the real priorities are in terms of economic and social development here in Nigeria, and specifically in this case in Lagos. So what we're here to do is to try and pick up those themes and try and develop UKTI strategies as to how we can best get UK companies involved in the very strong development of the city and also of wider Nigeria.
Okay, now UK companies are looking to come into the state, and even though we've had some companies already here, the issues have always been the fact that there's too much bureaucracy. Now, at one of the sessions that was actually handled yesterday, that was an issue that actually came up, the fact that there's too much bureaucracy. So how is the UK government going to be working, that's your department in particular, going to be working with the state government to ensure that all of this is blurred, almost like a seamless transition?
Well, our colleagues in DFID, for example, have a very strong relationship with Lagos State Government in terms of looking at areas that could be counted as barriers to business. I think a lot of work has been done to reduce the bureaucracy, and that's been reflected, I think, in the attitude of a lot of UK companies who are coming in here. Our role is basically to liaise with Lagos State Government, on a very regular basis, to draw their attention to any issues that are preventing UK companies coming in here, whether to trade or to invest. And we have a very strong relationship with Lagos State Government. Governor Fashola came to London last year to go through some of the priorities that he has to see how UK companies can help. So the key word, as far as we're concerned, is partnership. We need to know what the state government's priorities are, and they need to know how UK companies can develop that agenda jointly with them.
Now, companies companies that are coming in from the UK already have a know-how, basically how to generate power and all the rest. And one of the constraints that was actually listed is gas supply challenges. Now, the Lagos State government is actually working to ensure that they have a gas project that can ensure that they have steady supply of power and for these companies that are coming in. But then we know that actually some companies that can come in and have the know-how to ensure that this project that the state government has actually started, they can key into it and actually support it. Not necessarily commercial industries, but industries that would probably also help in terms of supplying electricity.
Well, we're here to look at what the Nigerian customer wants, whether it's state government, federal government, or individual companies. We can't sell product to Nigeria that Nigeria doesn't want. So we take on board fully what the requirement is. And as you say, lots of UK companies have particular expertise, whether it's in power itself, whether it's in privatisation, whether it's private-public partnerships. We're engaged in all of those. And actually, directly after this session, I'm going back to the office to speak to about 75 UK companies who are interested in Nigeria across an entire range of sectors. So the focus here has been largely on things like power, agriculture, transport and housing, which are Lagos State Government priorities. We're working with them to try and develop that. But there is UK company interest across the entire spectrum of business activity.
Okay, so Mr. Purves, you mentioned the key sectors that this summit is actually basically focused on, even though it's all related to power. You mentioned agriculture, you mentioned housing, and of course there's also transportation, involved in all of this. Now, I'd like to ask, we know that Lagos State, even though it's a commercial hub, it's got a very large section of informal business. And so most of these UK companies that are going to be coming into Lagos State, would you be looking at ensuring that there's a sort of partnership? Because as much as even though the companies who are coming in are looking for profit, there's also room and opportunity to ensure that they transfer their know-how, they transfer their knowledge to ensure that these informal companies, this informal sector also grows, because the UK companies might not be around for a very long time, and there's definitely room to grow. So is there going to be a kind of workable plan to ensure that companies who are actually UK companies that are coming into Lagos State, for instance, find a fusion, find a way to fuse their ideas with the informal sector?
Yeah. Well, I think the key word that we always use is partnership. Just had partnership mentioned in the background there. And that's one of the things that we constantly say to UK companies at the beginning. Sure, you can export your product here, you can repatriate your profits, but one of the key areas that we need to develop more is that partnership, that relationship between the companies, UK and Nigeria. We have a very strong pipeline of SME activity, and that's where most of the activity is at the moment. Private sector to private sector, SME to SME. We want to broaden that out a bit so that UK companies feel more comfortable than perhaps they have done in the past in dealing with government, whether it's state level or at federal level. And part of our job is not to evangelise Nigeria. That's very much what Nigerians can do, but for us to evangelise the opportunities. And I'm very pleased to say that over the past couple of years we have seen a significant increase in the level of interest from UK companies in coming to Nigeria and specifically in coming to Lagos and the southwest.
Okay, so now basically, although you've said most of that already, as the summit comes to an end today, are we going to see a stronger incursion of UK companies into Lagos State, trying to tap into these opportunities that the Lagos State government has shown that it's very capable of giving out to the people?
Yeah, well, I mean, the message in the 3 years that I've been here has very much trying to develop that relationship. Events such as this refocus our minds on the key priorities of Lagos State government and the people of Lagos State. And as I said earlier, our focus has got to be on what the customer wants, not what we want to sell to the customer. So we take these types of events very seriously, and we use that to message to UK companies, and that's what I'll be doing directly after this conference finishes today.
Mr. Mike Purves, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Great pleasure. pleasure. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I've been speaking to Mr. Mike Purves. He's the Director, UK Trade and Investment, and it's very clear that everything that has actually happened here has actually been in line with what the UK government is actually trying to see how they can encourage as much as possible. We know that Nigeria is an emerging market, and we're going to be having more companies from the UK coming in, and it's going to be, well, almost seamless because like he said, most of the issues, including bureaucracy and the rest of it, has been properly addressed or will be properly addressed. But let me not take the shine too much of what he said. Well, Business Morning will continue in just a moment. Please join us again.